Welcome to the Bitcoin RX podcast. This is your host, Nurse Ralph. Today, I got with me Jor from 88 Sats Radio. He's going to help me give you your weekly dose of orange pill so you don't die from fiat disease. Jor,
Nice.
my man, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. I just got to actually shut the door right here.
Oh, you got a little friend wanting to come in, huh?
It's lunchtime in the household,
Ah,
so we're what time zone are you in, Ralph?
I am Eastern time. Yeah.
Oh, so you're a little bit ahead of me. It's noon.
Oh,
It's
yep.
noon here.
Oh, noon. Okay. Oh, not that bad. Just an hour. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, I gotta eat after this too. So nice,
Sorry.
nice,
What was
nice.
the question there? I was a little distracted there. How am
Oh
I doing?
no,
I'm
I was
doing
gonna
good.
say no. I heard. I thought it was your dog that wanted to come in.
Oh no, he was sitting there. That's why I had the door open, but
Yep. Yep.
Bridge came down and ruined the party. So I guess it's lunchtime for her.
Yep. Yep. I see. Nice. Nice. And before we start, I actually wanted to ask you about the Bitcoin conference. Actually, I
Yeah.
saw you went with like Rajad, Jerry, and a bunch of other guys. How was that actually?
It was good. I actually
Yeah.
wasn't. I traveled there myself. It was my first time
Nice.
traveling solo. So it's first
Oh,
time going through
nice.
an airport by myself and that whole
Yep.
thing.
Yeah.
Usually, I don't have the best eyes. I usually wear contacts or glasses, so usually I don't wear any eyewear in airports, and I just kind of follow the crowd. And so this time it was a new experience for me. I had to make
Nice.
sure I I was at the wrong gate actually
Yeah.
in Calgary and almost missed my
Damn.
flight.
Jeez. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Make
was
sure you
looking
take
at
somebody with you, man.
I know. I was looking at the seat. I think it said 29E or something. So I was like in gate 29E.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's good though. I
Man.
think I can do it now once I've been through it once. But no, Vegas was
Uh-huh.
awesome, man. It was a
Nice.
brand new experience for me. It was my first conference.
Yep.
I've been to a couple of local meetups before, but nothing like that. That was
Yeah. Oh
pretty
yeah.
extravagant. So it was cool. I got to meet Jerry. I got to meet Rajat. I got to meet
Yeah.
the whole crew there from the Living the Future community that we have. And so it
Yeah.
was cool.
I
I
love
didn't
that.
watch too many presentations. I think we watched Mahler's, Sailor,
Mhm.
and then Ross at the end.
Yep.
But it was just nice to see people in person. It's a whole different experience than looking at people
Yeah.
through the screen here. So it was pretty cool.
I
I
like
highly
that.
suggest people, if you got some extra dollars kicking around, I kind of made the rule for myself. I'm going to get through one Bitcoin cycle before I go to any conferences, just because I feel like buying sats at that stage is a better play. So
Yeah.
this is kind of just a reward, I guess, for sticking around this long in Bitcoin.
Yep. I like that. I like that. Yeah. I do plan on going at some point in the future for sure. Because I don't know, but maybe next year, 2 years, who knows? But I do want to go in one for sure. And I had a lot of people. Well, not a lot of people. Some people said that it was kind of like a little bit annoying because people were promoting crap coins and stable coins and all that. Did you feel like that was kind of like did you feel like there was a lot of that vibe as well, or were you just not bothered by it that much because you had a good group of guys with you?
Yeah, I think I would lean more towards that. I did see
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of I mean, David Bailey takes a lot of crap and Bitcoin Magazine takes a lot of crap for that kind of stuff, and I would say the same. But
Yeah.
it's the same kind of thing as anything. It's really what you make of it
Yep.
yourself. Like you
Yep.
can be walking around there and get all worried and butthurt about the different altcoins on there, or you can just
Yeah.
walk by and pay them no attention. It's the same kind of thing as altcoins in real life. Like they're never
Yep.
going to stop. You can worry about them, you can get mad at them, or you can just buy Bitcoin.
Yep. Yep. Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, man. And before we start diving into Bitcoin, my man, can you tell us a little bit about your background and your journey before Bitcoin?
Sure.
Yeah.
I was a CPA, so a chartered professional accountant. So I went
Yep.
through college, university, and then the CPA program. So it was about 6 hours or 6.5 years total of education,
Sheesh. Yep.
which I do not use at all today. So
It's crazy.
I should have bought Sats instead of playing Call of Duty and drinking beers in
Yeah.
college. I should have just bought Sats with that. I would be in a lot different position now.
Yep.
But it was good. I learned a lot. I met a bunch of great people. I spent about 10 years working. When I left my job, I was a manager at a local accounting firm here. But it was just through the pandemic, and I was working from home. Had a lot of time on my hands to kind of look into something. Just wasn't sitting right with me. So things weren't making sense, and so I started going down a couple different rabbit holes, and it led me to Bitcoin. So, as bad as it was for myself and a lot of people, the whole pandemic, it was a very net positive for me because it helped me. Without that whole thing happening, I probably wouldn't be sitting here today, to be honest with you. So that the whole experience there, mixed with my background of economics and finance and all that kind of stuff, it's set up perfectly for where I am today. And the crazy thing is, my dad actually worked 40 years in a bank, and so we knew about money. We didn't know about money like I do now. And even him, after 40 years, I still have conversations with him today. And even as a banker who spent 40 years in that industry, he didn't really know too much about money. He didn't know where it came from. He didn't know the negative impacts of the fiat dollar. He basically was just really good with people, and he managed the team underneath him, and they dealt with money and lending and deposits and all that kind of stuff. So it's not something we're taught in school. It wasn't something he was taught in a bank. And so I think they've done a very good job of hiding how corrupt the monetary system is. And once you see it, there's no going back there. So that's where I
Yeah.
am today.
Yeah, that's fair. Wow, that's crazy. Is your dad a Bitcoiner now? Or is he
I would say
still?
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Obviously, he doesn't have a YouTube channel. He doesn't spend
Yeah.
10 hours a day listening to Bitcoin content. But
Yeah.
no, he does pretty well for himself.
Yeah. No, that's good.
I,
No, no,
I got him
I'm
some
glad. I'm
Bitcoin,
glad.
and we got it into a
Yeah.
nice little multi sig, and it's dispersed and all that kind of stuff. So it's good. I
Nice.
think he's learned a little bit from me.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah, that's interesting because I feel like it was the same thing. Although Bitcoin was, I mean, I said Bitcoin, COVID was bad for a lot of people, but it also, you're right though, it did give us a lot of time to actually like think about, okay, something is going on, and like, okay, like what is it? So I'm in the same boat where it's like post COVID, it's kind of when I was like, huh, something is really something's going on. I don't know what it is, but I'm gonna find out. So yeah, I feel that. Um,
It,
it-
it seemed like in it seemed like the whole thing started in 2016 for me. And for the
Interesting.
first couple of years, I was a little bit tuned into it a little bit. I was doing a little bit of, digging around in a certain couple things like, let's say Hollywood or the music industry and politics itself.
Hmm.
But then it wasn't until 2020 where I actually had a lot of time to sink into this stuff. And it just again, once you kind of are exposed to it for the first time, it really changes who you are. And I
Yeah.
really believe that the person I was before that whole thing is gone, like
Yeah.
dead.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. It's hard to come back. It's just to go back to that system. Like once you learn, it's like, wow. Yeah. You really don't see yourself like going back. It's kind of
No.
impossible, really.
And it's hard too. And I'm sure there's people watching this show here who are going through the same kind of thing. And it is hard. And the hard part is because you kind of feel like you're by yourself. That's the hardest part. It's very lonely. And I'm kind of under the impression that we're living through a great awakening right now in a lot of different ways. And I think that day by day, people might not see this, but when we zoom out here, when we look back in 50 years, this is going to be the great awakening. And there's a lot of people kind of going through this right now. So they kind of start with that, and then that usually leads them to the money's broken. And then that might lead them to gold and silver and some other commodities that are considered to be hard money instead of fiat. And then eventually, I think that people are led to Bitcoin from there. But the hard thing is now, even for me, like going to social events and stuff and doing things that I used to do is a lot different for me. And it's shitty in a way, but it's also, I wouldn't change a single thing about it. And I know that those people who are going through the same journey that I went through already, we're going to be in the same place one day, and we're going to have a lot better, more meaningful conversations. But for now, it is difficult. So if there's anybody out there watching this, I just, it's important to know that you're not the only person going through this. It's a pretty normal thing, to have that awakened mind, I guess you would say, and not really care about the game last night or the politics and all this kind of stuff. So it's like people will get there. We just got to be patient with it. And that's why it's so important to have other Bitcoiners in your life, Bitcoiners, a community of Bitcoiners and people that you can bounce ideas off with, learn from, grow with, and all that kind of stuff. I think it's very important.
Oh yeah, I agree. I agree. It is, and that's one of the reasons why I like doing the podcast now, because it's kind of nice to like talk to somebody else about it. Because I mean, around me, like my wife's starting to get it, my sister, my mom's starting to get it, but like it's kind of hard to talk to, like nobody understands what I'm saying. Sometimes it's like, hey, like there's a problem. Hey, wake the hell up. But I don't know. I look like the crazy guy, So
Yeah.
I enjoy doing this now. It's like my new really, I guess, maybe my new therapy, I guess, like talking to somebody else about, what's going on. So no, I enjoy it. And tell us a little bit about 88 Sides Radio. Like what inspired that actually?
Well, it's the same kind of thing for me. I was going
Uh-huh.
through it just like you are. I
Yeah.
wanted to talk. I wanted to talk about it. I didn't know who to talk to. And it was actually, so I started working as there's a couple different local financial firms here. So I forget what you'd call them, financial advisory firms. And they knew I was a Bitcoiner, so they kind of contracted me to help some of their clients with Bitcoin. And so I got about 3 or 4 calls in a matter of weeks about people getting hacked or getting scammed. And I was like, you know what? And it's the worst. Like there was people who were losing 50, 60, $70,000 to these scams, right? And they were blaming Bitcoin on it, even though it had nothing to do with Bitcoin. It was just a front. It was a proxy for this Bitcoin platform that they were selling. And so I was like, you know what? This is horrible. I feel horrible for these people. There's nothing that I can do. So instead of like trying to react to it or having to have these conversations over and over again, I'm going to try to get ahead of it. And so I was like, I'm going to start a YouTube channel. I'm going to go on there for 10 minutes a day. I'm going to share some tips on online security, on privacy, on Bitcoin stuff. And so this was about 2 years after I left my job. And so I was all out of sorts. I was used to a routine. I was used to a salary. And so I was sleeping in till like 9:30, just kind of getting up. And, it was a weird phase. But this made me get up because I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it a live stream because I don't want to edit it. So I'm going to do it live, but I'm going to do it early enough so that nobody shows up in the live chat and I can just do these. So anyways, it turned into like a couple people showing up and then a couple more people showing up. And then it turned into what it is today. So that was the whole reason why it started. And that's kind of where we are today. It's evolved into much more than that, but that's where it started from.
Yeah, that's pretty brave, man. That you started doing that after you quit your job too. That's that's pretty weird because I feel like a lot of people they do it while they have their job, and then once they see that they have some sort of revenue
Yes.
coming in, they do it. But man, yeah, that's brave. That's
Well,
brave.
Ralph, I did have like we have our King Golf company
Yeah.
here.
Yep.
And so I kind of started building that while I was still working as an accountant. I was doing it in the mornings and at night.
Yep.
So that was kind of what I was focused on at that time for those 2 years. So I did have some income coming in through that.
Yep.
But it wasn't, so I was doing a bit of Bitcoin stuff and then mostly King Golf stuff. And now it's kind of shifted from
Mhm.
some King Golf stuff, but mostly a lot of
Big
Bitcoin
one.
stuff now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. That's fair. That's nice. That's nice. And so talking about Bitcoin security. Can you explain to my new audience out here why is Bitcoin security? Why is self custody important?
I think the thing that people really need to keep in mind, and the reason, like where you start with this is why, like, why do you care about this? So the first thing I would say to people out there is like, look at where you're storing your Bitcoin. That could be on an Aqua wallet on your phone. That could be on the exchange still. That could be on a Speed wallet or another hot wallet on your phone. If you actually don't have the 12 keys to that wallet, you don't actually own that Bitcoin yourself. So you're basically just, that Bitcoin is an IOU, just like you'd put a deposit in with the bank. They put it into your account, but you can't hold that. If something went wrong, that money might not belong to you at the end of it, right? So it's the same kind of thing. I think about Bitcoin in self custody, just like I think about cash in my own hand. That's self custody in cash is when you can actually hold it. Whereas money in the bank, that is an IOU from the bank that they will make good to that promise back to you, just like with an exchange or even a custodial wallet. That's an IOU in terms of Bitcoin that they actually have the Bitcoin and they will give it to you whenever you want to. So it's a good place for people to start. And I think that I'm kind of mixed with it, Ralph, because I think that there's too many Bitcoin channels out there who are pushing it too hard on people. Because Bitcoin, as easy as it is, once you've been in it for a while and you can kind of look at it from that view, it's pretty different from the world that we're used to. It's more responsibility than we're used to. And so I think the worst thing that people can do is buy a bunch of Bitcoin and just take self custody of it right away. That's where the majority of people actually lose their Bitcoin. So I don't think it's a bad thing to have it on an exchange. Like in the US, I think you have River, Strike has an option to do that. In Canada, here we have ShakePay. You're in the America, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yes. I'm in Maine. Yeah.
Okay. So it's not a bad place to just keep it there for a little while. I wouldn't suggest leaving it there for a long term. I'd say, like, give yourself a couple months, leave it on there, start doing some research, start learning about self-custody, how to do that, and then do it slowly. So move over 200 bucks, move over 500 bucks, and just kinda take it slow. But yeah, I mean, it's very important. That's the whole beauty of Bitcoin, is that you can actually own it. You can take self-custody of it, you can use it without anybody's permission, and that's what you kind of unlock there when you set it, get it into a self or a non-custodial wallet that you actually own the keys to. So that's kind of what I do as my, I would say, full-time job now, is help people with security, setting up their cold storage, setting up a multi-sig, encrypting their recovery phrase. There's a lot of different layers to it. But again, I think if people are just getting into Bitcoin, it's okay just to leave it on the exchange for a little while until you kind of get your feet underneath you, and then move it over there. It's not a long-term solution, but it's going to be safer than you trying to do things too quickly. I think that's what I've noticed.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, it's because I feel like we're all very like used to having like somebody else take care of our money for us, leaving it
Yes.
in a 401k, leaving it in whatever exchange. Like being in charge of your own retirement is kind of it's like it's something new that us Bitcoiners we're used to it now, but like a lot of people are kind of like this is a big deal having your entire like life savings in your own hand, because if you mess up and nobody's coming to help you, it's on you. So it is a big deal. Yeah, I that was the I wanted to talk to you about like some Bitcoin wallets, but um a funny story is that my first wallet, I know you're gonna make fun of me for this one. My first wallet was Tangem because
Yeah,
I was
tandem.
afraid of like having to be in charge of my own seed phrase because Tangem has those three cards where they if you have I guess if you have two of them, they you can I guess you can control your wallet. So I was like, okay, it's probably easier for me to manage three cards than 12 words. So that's why I got into that. And then I realized later on that wow, that was a terrible idea. And then
Well,
yeah, I upgraded.
yeah,
But
well, that's good. And I mean, you
yeah,
started somewhere, right? I started with Trezor, I think it was too, is the first one that I had, which I don't recommend people use now, but it's part of it. It's all part of the journey here. So that's the point of your channel. The point of my channel is to kind of help people bypass those. But the reality is that there's going to be still a lot of people going through that. But I think one thing I would add to that before we get into some of the tips and stuff on that, because there's a lot to know to it, and I think having conversations like this is important. But the nice thing about Bitcoin, and what really sets Bitcoin apart from literally any other asset, is that it is the only asset that you can truly own, right? And when people hear that, they're like, "Well, I can own cash, I can own gold, I can own land." But I would say gold and cash would be the closest alternatives to something like this. But you have to remember that that gold and that cash, basically, you own it until somebody more powerful comes along and takes it from you. So the nice thing about Bitcoin, and the real unlock that's going to change all the incentives of violence and war and everything into the future, is the fact that you can store your Bitcoin, either in your head, which I don't recommend, but you can set it up in a way where your keys are actually geographically dispersed. So if somebody killed you or somebody broke in your house, they can't actually take your Bitcoin. So that's a very powerful idea, and that's where people should be working towards, because again, you can't do that with gold, you can't do that with any other asset. So that's
right.
the cool thing about Bitcoin.
100% agree. Oh yeah, nothing really beats that. But it's gonna take. I feel like a lot of people still don't know that about Bitcoin yet. They still think we're still in that like oh it's a Ponzi scheme and all that. It's like we gotta get over that little hump first.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I think it'll be I think it'll be a little hump, but also a big hump. Like, I think we're a very
yeah,
long ways away from that. Most, like you said,
yeah.
most people don't even understand the value of Bitcoin yet, and then they'll
Right.
probably have to get burned a couple times, and then they'll get a
Yep.
cold storage, and then they'll put it in
Yeah.
a multi-sig and then encrypt it. But it is a long journey, and it's, I
Right.
don't think we should take for granted how much time we've actually spent in Bitcoin and learning about it.
Hmm.
And this kind of stuff seems easy to us, but there's a lot of people who are just like, not even close to that yet. So it is going to be a
Right.
long journey.
Right.
But I think that your channel and the channels out there, that's what's, pushing this thing forward. So
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I think I was talking to someone yesterday about this where because I feel like, do you think the millionaires are gonna get it first before the rest of us? I mean, I know this is speculation because I'm doing this to help the average folk, right? But like then I in my head I'm thinking like so the people with money they understand, you know, they understand when something is rare and they know that, oh, okay, I need me a piece of that, right? For the average folks out there that still in their mind, they think, oh, okay, I need to just work and invest my 401k. They still have that 9 to 5 mentality. They still like just on the hamster wheel, just grinding, just grinding,
Yeah.
just grinding. Do you think like that will like kind of, I don't know, like in mind, I'm thinking maybe the millionaires will probably, once they understand it, and I don't know if they tell, others, they might get there faster than the 9 to 5. What do you think about that actually?
So I think the millionaires are going to be actually the people who suffer most from Bitcoin.
Yep. Okay. Why is that?
So the reason I say that is because billionaires are a whole different level, right? If you get $1 billion, you could pretty much wait until 2100 before buying Bitcoin, and you're still going to end up with a decent amount of Bitcoin. Like $1 billion is a lot of money. And then the average person, I think guys like me and you and whoever will be watching the show, this is our chance to get ahead. This is our chance to, if you look at the variance now between like your cash balance and then like JP Morgan's cash balance, there's a huge spread there. But if you look at my SAT balance compared to JP Morgan's SAT balance, there's not a huge spread there. And so that's I think the average person is going to benefit greatly. Anybody who's willing to stick their neck out a little bit here, take the time to learn, swap their fiat dollars and some other investments for Bitcoin, they're going to be the one rewarded for this the most. But millionaires, I think that they're so comfortable in the system that turned them into millionaires. They're so busy with keeping up with that. Like if you're a millionaire right now, you have a very expensive lifestyle, right? Like I've talked to doctors, I've helped doctors set up Bitcoin cold stores before. And they're like, man, I make a couple $1 million every year and I'm still struggling here. And so not only are they fully entrenched in that system, but they don't have the time to learn about Bitcoin like the average person would. And so that's going to be the hard thing because there's going to be a lot of millionaires out there. There's 63 million millionaires, I think, 21 million Bitcoin. I would estimate that at the end of it, maybe 5% of millionaires will actually be millionaires in the new system that we're moving into. So that's a lot of millionaires who are used to being very comfy and cozy in this world right now that
Yeah.
aren't going to have as much as people like me and you will have.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, that's yeah. No, you got a good point there. Yeah. Okay. All right. That's yeah, because you're right, and even like a lot of them too, they have all their money is like in like real estate and
Yes.
other stuff, and it takes quite a while if they want to sell those properties to convert that into cash and then buy some Bitcoin. So there's a whole process before they can
Well,
actually like switch over. And yeah,
yeah, exactly. You're exactly right. And it's time plus conviction, right? Even if they gave themselves a couple months to liquidate their real estate holdings, which is what most people have is backing their millionaire status is the value of real estate. But even if they had a couple months, they don't have the conviction. They don't have the time to learn about Bitcoin. Like, why would they trade this asset in the real world that they benefited so much from through the years? Why would they trade that for some magic internet money? It just doesn't even make like that's their logic there, right? So it's like they're so far away from it that by the time they put two and two together, they're not going to end up with much.
yeah, no,
They're
no,
really
I,
not.
I agree. Yeah, that's true. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. And then also, back to Bitcoin security. Actually, what would you say are like the top three Bitcoin wallets? Because I know there are a lot of them on the market right now, and I think that's when people are first starting. That's where they get a little confused. They don't know where to choose, so they try to they just go with whatever somebody they trust suggests, but sometimes that's not always the best thing. And of course, it happened to me too. But so, what do you
Yeah.
think about like the best Bitcoin wallets out there?
So I think there's three that I usually recommend to people, which is the Blockstream Jade, the Foundation Passport, and the CoinKite Cold Card. And the Cold Card has two different options: the MK4 and the Cold Card Q. I like the Q myself because you can put batteries in it and you don't have to be connected to a wall. But the nice thing about these devices is they actually generate your private key offline. And so for people who are new to Bitcoin and wondering like what's the big deal about having cold storage or having a hardware device is because when you generate something like a speed wallet or not even a speed wallet, but let's say an Aqua wallet or a Sparrow wallet on your desktop, the way that was generated was on the internet, right? So those are probably being stored somewhere that somebody might be able to access later. Whereas these hardware devices, they actually generate the key and the seed phrase offline. So the three that I recommended, you actually never have to touch the internet with. They all use something called air gapping, where you don't have to connect it into the laptop like you would with Trezor or a Ledger or other devices. So those are the ones that I usually recommend for people. And for some reason within Bitcoin, the cold cards got a bad rep in terms of being super complex to set up and use. It's really not. It's very simple. There's a ton of advanced features, but they're hidden behind the advanced settings within the cold card there. And so that's the one that I recommend. Um, I just think that you can start with the Ledger, you can start with the Trezor or Tangent or whatever. But what's the point? Why would you waste money on that and waste time learning about that one? It's like there's better options out there. They're not that more expensive. And you should take this stuff seriously, even though your balance might say it's only worth $1,000 or $2,000 today. That's just a complete illusion. It's worth probably 500 times more than that in reality. And that's what you need to be prepared for, right? You got to be keeping this stuff as generational wealth. You want to make sure that your family can access this in 500 years from now. And that's just not going to happen with some of these other devices that connect to the internet. So that's what I would
Right.
say on that.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, those are some good options. And also I understand where people are coming from, because when I first, because I did buy one of the cold cards as well, and then I and at first I got it, set it all up, and I'm not gonna lie, I also was like, whoa, okay, like I was a little overwhelmed with like all the features and all of that. So I was like, I don't know, I feel like it could I don't know, maybe it could be simpler, but for a newbie out there, it does like it does feel like a lot of work. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it took me a lot of like YouTube videos to
Yeah,
like kind of like before I could like, feel comfortable doing stuff on it. So yeah,
for
I don't
sure.
know. Yeah,
No,
it
and
is.
you're right. And the one thing I'd say about that is anybody who's looking into this stuff, like you got to be prepared, I would say, to make an investment. And that investment is either going to be with your time, where you can watch a bunch of different videos, where you can read a bunch of guides. So it's either your time or you can hire somebody like what I do with Bitcoin Citadel. And so that's your investment, either time or money. But I think it's very much worth it because again, we're protecting the best asset that has existed in human history before, and so it's not something you should be taken lightly. If you have any sort of significant balance, I would say anybody who has more than 5 million Sats should be investing in their security. That's a cold card. That's either your time or hiring somebody to help you with it. Um, but yeah, I mean, once you do it a couple times, though, I think you feel a little bit differently about how actually easy it is. But that's the reason why I suggest the cold card, because the more time you spend, the more knowledgeable you become, the more features that you can actually unlock with that cold card. So there are a ton of different really cool things that you can do with the cold card that you can't do with anything else. And so that's why I tell people just to start very basic with it. With this basic setup, you basically export your private key into Sparrow Wallet. You do a couple test transactions there. But then from there, you can create things like trick pins, duress pins, and that's just going to make your Bitcoin security much more robust. So cold card allows for that, and that's why I usually recommend people go with that one.
Yep, fair enough, fair enough. And as far as like Bitcoin security, I know like there are like different levels to it based on how much Bitcoin you have and how secure you want your Bitcoin to be. Can you like walk us through like those different levels of security to, based on, what the person want to do exactly?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think people just starting out, like we were mentioning there, I think it's
Mhm.
okay if you leave it on an exchange. I think that would kind of be the bottom of if we looked at this like a pyramid, that would be kind of the bottom layer there, leaving it on an exchange, which is fine. It's probably going to be safe there. I mean, stuff has happened in the past, but I really feel like more people have lost Bitcoin by mismanaging their private keys and their Bitcoin security than by losing it on an exchange. So that's kind of the bottom one there. And then you would work up towards something like a hot wallet, it's called. So that's like something that's connected to the internet. You can download an app on your phone. You can set it up on your computer with an application on there. What I recommend for those are the Aqua wallet. So you can get that from aqua.net. And I'll probably send you some of these links after, Ralph, so you can put them in the show notes or whatever. But the Aqua wallet and also Sparrow wallet. So the Aqua wallet works great on your mobile device, your phone. And then the Sparrow wallet works great on your laptop or whatever that may be. So again, on those two wallets, those keys are generated from the wallet, which is connected to the internet. So it's safe. You hold the keys to it, but it's still, there's a little bit of vulnerability there because those keys were generated online. And then so from there you go into a hardware device. So that could be a cold card, a Jade, a Foundation Passport. I recommend people just go with the cold card. All three are very similar. All three are very similar priced. I like the cold card myself. And then from there you go into a multi-sig. So think about a multi-sig like I don't know how many people have ever worked on like an organization or a board before, but like when you go to move money out of a foundation or an organization, it requires two signatures on the check. So you can't actually move any money out of that bank account until you have two signatures. It just adds another layer of security, prevents fraud and that kind of stuff. So this is the same kind of thing, but with hardware devices. So with a multi-sig, you actually need two signatures from two different devices in order to move any Bitcoin. So it's kind of like the paramount of Bitcoin security because it takes away your single point of failure. So let's say that you had a cold card in your house and your house burnt down. So your device is in there, your private key is probably in there. Maybe it's on steel. Maybe you can find the steel, maybe not. That's a single point of failure. So your house burns down, your Bitcoin's gone. Whereas if you had that in a multi-sig, that one device would only be one signature out of the three that you need there. So in that type of a setup, you could actually use a wallet that you have somewhere else and a wallet that you have somewhere else, and you could put those two together and still recover your Bitcoin, even if you lost one of your devices. So multi-sig is, again, probably the best thing that people should be working towards. It removes your single point of failure. It adds another layer of security there. And you can do other things with that. You can do 3 of 5s, you can do 5 of 10s, stuff like that. It's very flexible. But again, the whole point of it is it removes the single point of failure and the vulnerability from you being responsible for the keys. And then from there, the last thing I'd say is that one part that I talk about on my channel all the time, I'm sure you've heard me talk about this, but one thing that I think a lot of people, Bitcoiners, get wrong is that when you take your private key, your 12 words from any wallet, that could be an Aqua wallet, that could be a cold card. Most people put it on paper, and that's where they start, which is better than nothing. And then they move it on to steel, which is an improvement there. But the problem with that, and the one thing that I would say, the main piece of advice for people here for this show, hopefully the one piece of information you take away is like you have your cold card there, which is very secure. You have a PIN code on it. It's very hard to hack into to sign a transaction to move Bitcoin out of it. And then most people keep their 12 or 24 words right underneath it or in the same safe or in the same general vicinity of that, which means that people could essentially just bypass your hardware device, just take your 12 words because it's written in plain text there and just steal your Bitcoin. And so one thing that we do at Bitcoin Citadel is we have a program that encrypts those. So you can encrypt those backup words so you can geographically distribute them. So it's encrypted versus plain text. So it's another layer on top of the multi-sig that you can add. You don't have to have a multi-sig to do it. But that's a huge vulnerability, I think, for people is they leave their device and their 12 words in the same spot, which totally defeats the purpose of having a hardware device.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Wow. Yeah, interesting. And then I wanted to ask you about for the multi-sig. Would you suggest people to kind of go with like an institution like Casa or anything like that, or do you feel like it's probably better for them if they learn to do it themselves using like their own devices and kind of spread them out for better, I guess, security? What's your opinion about that?
Yeah, I think that there's trade-offs with everything, right? So if you're using something like Casa or Unchained or one of those devices, they're called collaborative custody, which basically means they hold one of the keys, or some of them hold two of your keys in that multi-sig setup, which is good because it takes a bit of pressure off of you. It takes a little responsibility off you. You kind of have a fallback plan there. But the trade-off there is that they hold a key. They know your balance, and it's great when you have a friendly government like you have in the U.S. right now, where they're not coming after you. But that could change in 4 years. And if they have a key to it, they have your information, they have your KYC stuff. And so that's a kind of trade-off there. It's more convenient. It takes a little bit of responsibility off you, but you are sacrificing a key and your information. They know how much Bitcoin you have essentially there.
Yep, fair. And as far as Bitcoin Citadel, can you tell us a little bit more about that one actually? And And who is it for? Like, do you guys provide like I guess service for like anybody with any amount of Bitcoin, or do you suggest someone to have like I guess a specific amount of Bitcoin or something that's like significant to them before they start looking into that, the encryption?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And actually, at Citadel, so Citadel kind of started because we have our living in the future community, which is about 120, 130 Bitcoiners from around the world. And there was a couple people who came to us and said, "Hey, we had an experience with this Bitcoin advisory firm. It wasn't great. This is what went wrong. This is what we would have liked to see differently." And so, with the problem comes a solution. And so, we had about 6 or 7 of us come together, and we said, "We're just going to start this. We're kind of located in different parts of the world, different time zones, different ages." And so, the nice thing about Bitcoin Citadel is it's for everybody. You know, you could be you might have 0 sats, you might have 100 Bitcoin, but we have people on the team who can help you either way. You don't have to go through the whole encryption thing. That's kind of our highest level package that we have. We're the only company that offers that today. I'm sure that's going to change in the next couple of years. But no, we help people get a cold storage device, a hardware device. We help them set it up, make sure they have the best practices, things to look out for, do a couple test transactions. The analogy that I love using is like similar to like getting your driver's license, right? So when you're 16, 17 years old, nobody just gives you the keys and says, have fun, hit the road, have fun here. You always have somebody when you learn to drive, you have somebody in the passenger seat there, right? Giving you tips, telling you what to do, when to do it. They have an emergency brake there. If you're going too fast, they can just slam on the brakes. And so that's kind of what we have at Bitcoin Citadel. That's kind of what we hope to accomplish because, like we've talked about, this isn't really common sense to people. It's not straightforward knowledge. And there's a lot of risk here. So we help people with that. We help people get a multi-sig set up. We help people with the encryption. We help people with their privacy. We have a privacy expert on the team who can, set up a phone so it's very private, set up a computer, that kind of stuff. So it's a pretty wide range of people and of services that we offer. But I don't know when this episode is going to come out, but you can actually go to bitcoincitadel.net today. I haven't talked about it on my show yet. I just got a message right before this interview saying that the website is good to go. So you can go on there and check it out. And breaking news here on
Breaking
Bitcoin
news.
RX.
Yep. I love it, man. That's amazing. Yeah, no, I'm gonna have to check that out very soon because yeah, Bitcoin security is like one of the things that I've been like trying to like learn more about because now it's like, the more you understand Bitcoin, the more you realize like, holy crap, like I have something. This is
Yes.
valuable. Like this is a big deal. Like I
Yes.
mean, the majority of the world does not know it yet, but I'm like, yo, like we are like it's funny because people say, oh, it's over $100,000. I'm late. I'm like, y'all have no idea how early we are. Like, man,
No,
like
and even Bitcoiners don't even understand how early we
that's
are,
true.
right?
That's true. Yeah, it's man, it's crazy. It's crazy. And for like the more advanced people out there, that's another thing that I've been like looking into is time locks. How familiar
Mm.
are you familiar at all about the time lock function in Bitcoin at all or
Yeah, it's not something that we advertise on our website. So if you look at our website, there's a bunch of services and products that we have on there. One thing that we do a little bit differently than other advisory firms too is we have something called value for value option. So some of the other competitors that we have, you have to purchase like 5 hours at like $300 per hour. It's just out of reach for a lot of Bitcoiners, right? And so the nice thing that we offer, because we do cater to the average person, is that you can set up a call with me or somebody else on the team. And basically you can have the meeting. They're about half hour, hour long, however many questions you have. You don't have to pre-buy anything. And then you can just send us whatever you think it was worth to you. So we think that where the world is moving towards, more of a value for value economy. And so we wanted to be kind of at the forefront of everything there. But in terms of the security, I think that sorry, what was the question? I kind of went
oh
off on
the
a
time no
tangent there.
time locks. I
Oh,
was
time
gonna ask
locks.
about yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the things that we'll offer. I'm not an expert on it myself, but we have some very smart people at Citadel. So we have recovery services. We're gonna have time locks. We're gonna have different things like that. Helping people use some of the more advanced features on their cold card. Kind of walk them through that. It won't be advertised on the website, but it's something you can just set up a call with us and ask and inquire about, and we'll find something that works for you. So it is, I love the idea of the time lock. I think that that's going to be a huge thing in the future for inheritance planning and stuff like that. But also, like, if you think about it from a kind of a lower scale, is if you're like, you know what, I have my Bitcoin stack here. I might spend some of it in the next decade, but I want to make sure that it's safe. And so I might time lock 50% of my stack just in case something were to happen in my setup or whatever happens. I know that I'm going to be able to, in 10 years, even if somebody tried to hack me, they're not going to be able to do it for 10 years. And that's just kind of another layer on top of that. I think that people will utilize with Bitcoin. There's just so many cool things like that. And it's one of the thousands of reasons why Bitcoin's going to win.
Right, right, right. Oh yeah, I know. It's like I feel like every day, the more I learn, I'm like, wow, this keeps getting like more fascinating every day. I'm just like, wow, wow, amazing. Yeah, you never stop learning really, which
Oh
is
man,
pretty cool
it's
about it.
crazy.
Yeah.
And you know, when I started my channel, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna make a list of about 3 or 4 pages here of topics that I can, because when you're doing a daily show, it's tough. You got to come
Yep.
up with things to talk about every day, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm gonna make this list. I'm gonna take a couple months, formulate this list, and I was like, you know what, screw it, we're just gonna do it tomorrow. And
Yeah.
I started the next day.
Yeah.
And since then, I've actually have an abundance of things waiting for me to talk about.
Yep.
I'll never run out of things to talk about in Bitcoin world.
Yeah, that's nice. That's nice. Man.
Three,
And
334 episodes later, and it's still
yeah,
just like,
you're
I'm
still
learning
going.
so much.
That's crazy. It shows you like how deep this rabbit hole goes. And you go for like you go for like what, 2 hours, an hour, 2 hours every day,
Yeah,
which
it
is
started as 10 minutes and then it turned
10.
into an hour and then 2 hours now. So yeah,
Man,
it's
that's wild, man. Damn,
it's
that's
fun though,
crazy.
because
Yeah.
there's different people showing up there every day and people
Yep.
asking questions. And
Yep.
that's the whole point of it, right? That's why I started, was to help people. And so if
Yeah.
people are wanting to be helped, and
Yep.
then I'm going to help them. And I think that that's a good rule for any Bitcoiners out there. If you feel like, you know, you got to push Bitcoin on your friends and family and save them,
Mm,
just don't. Focus on the people who actually want to learn. And those are the people who are showing up in the chat. And so that's who
yep.
I don't have any issue spending some of my time and energy talking to them
Yeah.
about it, because they want to learn. They're open to it, right?
Yep, yep, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because I feel like sometimes, like even sometimes your closest, your close family, they need it. They could use it, but because their mind is not understanding what the problem is,
Yes.
it's yeah, it just if you can't see why you need it, it there's no point of talking about it. I feel like Michael Saylor said, it's like you have to have a need to know
Yes.
basically before
Yes.
they start getting into that one. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what I was going to mention when we were talking about the millionaires there.
Yep.
Millionaires and billionaires aren't on a need to know right now. They're just
Right.
not. They
Right.
have, they think that they are going to be set because they have this amount of real estate, this amount of in their stock portfolio, this much in the bank account, but it's like they
Right.
haven't figured out that all of that's melting and all of that's trending towards zero against Bitcoin.
Right. 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 Yeah. I mean, yeah, they're still benefiting from the old system. So,
Yes,
why change? They got it all until,
exactly.
you
And so
know,
that's kind of the
yep.
approach I take with friends and family, is like, I guess they just don't need it yet.
Yep. Yep.
I did.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. That's true. Yeah, that's fair. And
Hey,
I
by the
want
way, before we go any
uh-huh.
further, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
Where'd you get your shirt? I like that shirt.
Oh, what's that? Amazon actually. Yeah.
Oh, was it?
Amazon, yeah. Yeah,
I thought
yeah,
you had
that
a
yeah, no,
store or
I
something. I was gonna
do.
buy one from
Oh,
you.
no, yeah, no, I do want to, make my own actually at some point, because I was like, "You know what? I do have some pretty cool ideas," and, I have, my wife and sister are very, they have great artistic brains. I'm like, "You know what? I'm gonna use you guys and make
Yeah,
some
do it.
pretty cool designs, man," because I do love, and I see you doing the same thing on your channels with your hats and stuff too. I'm like, "You know what? That might be a good one to start," because yeah, those are pretty cool.
It's kind of
Yeah.
underrated too. Like, I don't sell a
It
whole lot of
is.
hats from the channel yet, maybe one day.
Right.
But even somebody at the Bitcoin conference came up to me and they're like, I didn't recognize you, but I recognized your hat.
Yeah. Nice.
So
Yeah.
it works, I guess, in the sense of branding. And I mean, if
Yep.
there's one thing you can do as a Bitcoiner, because I mean, as well as me, we don't get a whole lot from YouTube.
Right, right.
Um, so it's like, it's a good way for people to support the channel. If you can make some good products that people can wear,
True,
and
true.
support the channel that way, I think it's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, true, true. And I also like what you've been doing with the QR code on top. And I'm like, man, that's a pretty freaking smart idea, man. I'm like, you know what? I might have to steal that one from you, man.
No, you
That's
should.
actually
I think you're
amazing.
crazy not to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm like, oh wow,
Um,
okay. I never thought about that one. Okay.
well, there's a road we could go down with this because I think it's super interesting right now. Um, and this is something I talked about with Forrest and Rajat on one of our clips, but Bitcoin basically allows you to set your own salary in a way, right? And so our whole thing within Living the Future is like we value sats as if they're $1. So $1 equals one sat. We know it's coming one day, so why wouldn't we just start living like that today and valuing sats in that same way? And so on a daily show for me, I might get 10,000 sats, I might get 15,000 sats, and people might say, "Well, Jory, you're an idiot. You're working 2 hours, you're getting $15 worth of value or, fiat worth of the equivalent to that." But I'm like, with Bitcoin, the nice thing about it is you can actually put those sats into a wallet unless you need to spend them today. You can put those sats into a wallet, and basically, whenever you sell them, that's what your salary was when you earn them. It's different than fiat because when you earn fiat, you know it's going down in value. It's not going to go up. They're never going to, restrict the amount of fiat printed. It's going to go down forever. So that's pretty much your peak salary is when you earn that. But with Bitcoin, you might earn that Bitcoin today or those sats today, and if you spent them in 10 years, I might be getting $5,000 per hour for doing these shows back in 2025. So that's how I see it. That's how I view Bitcoin and sats overall.
Yeah, oh yeah, 100% agree. Yeah, yeah. I'm starting to like get into that mindset too, like where I'm like, okay, you know what? Every Satoshi counts. Like I don't
Yes.
care what it is. You give me 5 cents, 10. I don't care. Just hey man, send it over here, man. If you don't want it, man, I'll take it. So yeah, no, I agree. And I hope to live long enough to see the day where one Satoshi equals $1. I mean, I don't know how long that's gonna take.
I
I,
think we
I do
will.
hope. Yeah. Oh yeah. 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 I think so. So are you a millennial, right? You're in your 30s. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Same here.
I'm mid-30s. Actually,
Yep.
Jerry asked me how old I was, and I didn't even know the other
Yeah.
day.
Oh yeah.
36, turning 37 this year.
Yeah. Oh nice.
I had to do
Nice. Oh
some
yeah.
math.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You're like, wait a minute. Yeah.
I was born in
Um.
'88. That's what kind of inspired the channel's name.
Oh, 88. Yeah. Okay. I see it. Yeah. I'm 30, 32. So yeah. So I'm right underneath you. So yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure we'll see that day. I'm sure we'll see that day.
Well, and
Um.
here's the thing too, is like this is a really good exercise that people could go through, right? So if you look
Uh-huh.
at the Bitcoin supply schedule for the next 100 years, you'll see that by like 2100, it's going to be like 50,000 sats per block reward. So for those unfamiliar,
Yeah.
every 10 minutes, the Bitcoin network, there's a block reward. Whoever mines that block with all the transactions in it, they
Mhm.
get rewarded with Bitcoin. And right now, it's 3.125 Bitcoin.
Yep.
2 years ago, it was 6.25 Bitcoin.
Mhm.
8 years ago, it was 12.5 Bitcoin.
Yep.
12 years ago, it was 25 Bitcoin every 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And when it first started, it was 50 Bitcoin
50 is
every 10
crazy.
minutes.
Yep.
And so that's the beauty is the supply is going to keep going down. But if you look at the equivalent of a block reward today, which is 3.125 Bitcoin, so it's about
Mm.
$350,000 worth of fiat today.
Yep. Yep.
And if you say, okay, well, in 100 years from now, if a block reward is going to be 50,000 sats, you would expect, if things continue, that 50,000 sats would carry about the same fiat equivalent of $350,000 worth of purchasing power. So that
Right.
just shows you like how valuable these sats are going to be if you look far enough out. It's a
Yeah.
very good exercise for people to do because it'll just blow your mind and change the way you think about sats
Yeah.
completely.
Yep. Yep. 100% agree. 100% agree. And do you live on a full Bitcoin standard? Do you have most of your stuff in Bitcoin or
No,
kind of? Okay. Yep. Yep.
I wish I could say that I did. I'm the closest thing I think you could have. I still pay my
Yeah.
mortgage with
Yeah.
my bank account.
Mhm.
I still pay what? No, a couple things, but
Yeah. Yep.
I'm slowly moving out of it. The nice thing about where we are in Bitcoin right now is there's actually tools where you can just slowly move out of fiat. Right
Right.
in the
Right.
U.S., you have things like River.
Yep.
I think Bitcoin Well. I think Strike has the ability to pay bills with Bitcoin.
Yep.
And Jack Mallers himself basically doesn't hold any fiat. He
Right.
but his house is probably paid off, so he's a little bit different situation than me.
Yeah.
But basically, what he does there is he just has credit cards. So
Yeah.
he buys everything with a credit card, and then he uses Strike to pay the credit card balance with Bitcoin.
Yep.
So he never touches a bank account.
That's
And
yeah, that's impressive. Wow.
I think that I'll get there one day. I don't know if I'll pay off my mortgage or what that looks like. I'm sure there'll be a company that pops up and say, "Hey, you can take a mortgage with us. You can back it with Bitcoin. You can pay with Bitcoin." I'm
Mhm.
sure that's coming.
Yep.
So
Oh, for
that's
sure.
kind of the
Oh
only
yeah.
thing keeping me in that system right now is the mortgage.
Right. Yeah, I feel it. I mean, I've been trying to do the same thing. It's pretty hard when nobody else around you is doing, is doing it. It's like I don't know, because I've been trying to use like Fold and slowly trying
Fold's
to like
great.
put yeah, Fold is actually amazing. And yeah, I mean that's like the one, it's like a such a crazy barrier because nobody I mean, I know you guys went to oh god, what's that company's
Stick
name?
and
The
shake.
burger, yeah, Stick and Shake for burgers. I mean, there aren't that many companies here that accept Bitcoin where I'm at, so it's it's pretty tough. I'm hoping that day comes soon though.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing. That'd be amazing.
And the one thing I'd say is if you're in the US, use something like Fold, like Ralph's talking about here. If you're in Canada, you can use something called ShakePay, which is what I've been using for the last couple of years now. So basically what I do, and I still need a bank account for this because it's basically where I send the money from. So with ShakePay, you can actually get a Visa attached to it. And with that Visa card, you can pay for everything with it. It's kind of like a prepaid Visa. So if I know, like I had to pay my car insurance today, so I transferred ShakePay $400, and I'm going to use my ShakePay Visa to pay for my car insurance with the ShakePay Visa card. And so I get Sats back for that instead of like airline miles or credit card points. I get 1% back in Sats. And so I've earned a ton of Sats through the last couple of years just by paying our business expenses and personal expenses with this card. But the nice thing too is you can just keep a Bitcoin balance on your ShakePay card or your Fold card. And then when you actually have to spend some of it, you can just convert it from fiat into Bitcoin within the app and pay for that thing with Fold or ShakePay. So you can still hold the majority of like your short-term funds in something like that in Bitcoin. And then when you need to spend it, you can just swap it into fiat, sell it essentially, and pay for what you need to do there. So I've been doing that for a couple of years now. It's amazing. I would much rather earn Sats back than credit card or airline miles. You know, I kind of have this theory that some of the things I pay for today. So let's say I bought new tires a couple months ago, and I earned 5,000 Sats for the purchase of those tires with my card. I think that over time, the Sats that I got back from that transaction are actually going to be worth more than the tires that I bought with that. So
Oh yeah, for
that's kind of
sure.
my mentality with it. But
Yeah. No, I like that. I like that. Yeah. And then the other thing I wanted to ask you about is the um so I'm sure you've heard that conversation about like how if Bitcoin doesn't become a medium of exchange, it's gonna fail. And we do use I mean with like apps like Fold and stuff like that, you kind of using the fiat world to earn points. But like, what do you feel about like spending your Bitcoin? And like, do you are you like towards the side of like spending and replacing, or do you feel like you want to like keep as much Bitcoin as possible because it's gonna be worth more in the future and just abuse this fiat system for as long as it's still there? What's your opinion
yeah.
about that?
So I think there's two different people when you're talking about that kind of stuff. The first person would be somebody who earns fiat and they take a portion of that and buy Bitcoin with it every month. And then to them, they would actually have to, because they're still have some fiat that they need to pay for their bills with, that Bitcoin would be more of an investment for them. And so if they were to sell that Bitcoin for fiat, that doesn't make any sort of sense. And that's why people are like, once Bitcoin gets to 200,000, I'm going to sell. It's like, sell it for what? Sell it for a melting ice cube? Like, it doesn't make any sense. So that's one. And I think that that's where the perspective that most people come from. But for me, like every dollar that I earn, because I don't have a salary, every dollar and if I had a salary, I would do the same thing. But I basically take every dollar that I get and put it in Bitcoin the day that that happens, right? I have a DCA, but every time I get paid for something, I just put that into Bitcoin. And so for me, I have to spend my Bitcoin. I have to sell my Bitcoin to live essentially. Like I'm not selling Bitcoin to put more dollars in my bank account. I'm selling Bitcoin or spending Bitcoin for, my life, for food, for gas, for anything like that, for a Vegas conference. Um, so that's kind of two ways to look at it. So yeah, I do agree in the sense that if you're just using it as an investment or a savings account, it doesn't make sense to sell it. But if you're all in Bitcoin, you're going to have to spend your Bitcoin. Otherwise, you're probably just going to starve to death or die. So, that's kind of how I am right now. I'm not all in on Bitcoin, like fully Bitcoin standard, but every dollar I get, I convert into Bitcoin because it's a better way to save. It's a better battery.
Yep. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I guess it does depend on like, yeah, the person. It's like it's personal finance, I guess. It's personal for everybody. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And I think that the way people, and I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I think the way people should be looking at it is like when you're buying something, whether that's a product or a service or whatever that is,
mhm,
you're just sending value to somebody.
mhm.
You could send them fiat, you could send them Bitcoin, you could send them tulips. It doesn't matter. You're sending value to somebody else.
Yep.
So, for example, if I would have used fiat to pay for Shake and Pay,
Mhm,
instead of buying Shake and Pay, I could have just bought Bitcoin, right?
mhm.
So
Yep.
why not just spend Bitcoin? If I have
Yeah.
that $30, why not just spend Bitcoin so I don't have to go through the process of, so just think about it as sending value to somebody. That doesn't matter how much, it doesn't matter much how what you send them. It's
Yep.
what you store your energy in. That's what
Yep.
really matters, right?
Yeah.
So that's the unlock there, is that any value that you have in your life from the work that you do, you save that in Bitcoin. And then
Mhm.
whatever you need to buy, just figure out a way. Fiat
Yep.
cash doesn't really matter. You're still sending them value
Yep.
either way.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. And I wanted to talk to you about wrench attack for a second, because a lot of people, there's been like a lot of like talk about things happening on, well, in France, I don't know where else where people are getting attacked. Can you like kind of like briefly um explain what that is, and like what are some of the ways that you think people could protect themselves from wrench attacks actually?
Yeah, wrench attack would be similar to any attack, right? You're walking down a back alley, somebody hits you in the side of the head and takes your wallet. That's exactly what it is, but for Bitcoin. And so, with Bitcoin, I think that we're going to go through about 5 or 10 years here where there's going to be a lot of this kind of stuff happen. And then I think we're going to get to a point where criminals and thieves are going to realize how hard it is to actually take Bitcoin from somebody. Because, like we alluded to before, Bitcoin is the only asset that you can truly own. And the security around Bitcoin is going to get better. It's going to change the incentives for people. I think Forrest alluded to it as increasing the cost of violence. That's what's going to happen with Bitcoin. Where it's going to take a long time to get there between people actually setting it up properly, their Bitcoin security, and then criminals understanding that there is ways to protect Bitcoin, that it doesn't matter if you killed me, you can't get my Bitcoin. But for the next couple of years, it's probably going to be pretty bad here. So the one thing that I would say is try to really reduce the amount of Bitcoin that you have around your house. I know that sounds probably pretty crazy to a lot of people, but if you use something like Bitcoin Citadel and the solution that we have, you actually don't need to keep a trace of Bitcoin at your house, because we encrypt it. Because we do it with QR codes and a passphrase, you can actually distribute those QR codes anywhere on Earth. Obviously, to restore your Bitcoin, you have to have the QR codes and scan it to unlock your recovery phrase there, but it actually allows you to have zero trace of Bitcoin at your house. So if somebody burnt it down, if somebody broke in, if the government showed up at your house, there's literally nothing that you can do. And so the one thing about cold storage, in addition to like the security, the better level of security there, is it kind of forces you to save too, right? Because if it's difficult for you to access it, it's going to be much more difficult for somebody else to access it as well. And then you're not going to be tempted if it goes up and you want to sell some, or if it goes down and you're panicking. Having that extra layer there it helps you forced HODL essentially. So it's great for preventing wrench attacks, but it's also great for just like holding this thing for the long term as it's meant to be held there. So yeah, just be very careful with your there. I mean, this is probably a full hour conversation of like $5 wrench attacks and how to prevent that. But the one thing I would say to people is just like start looking into it, start thinking about it, start looking into different scenarios, play it out in your head. That's kind of how what led me to Bitcoin Citadel was I would just obsess about Bitcoin security. I would be laying in bed and I'm like, okay, I feel like my security is pretty good, but what if this happens? Or what if this happens? And I'm like, well, I don't know what to do with that. So I finally got to a point where this guy reached out to me about the super backed encryption. And I was like, this is the solution that I've been looking for years now. And so again, it is a journey to get there. It's a process. You don't have to panic, but that is something that you should be working towards, I think, in your Bitcoin setup.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And I know we're gonna wrap it up very soon, but like anything else about like Bitcoin security? I know we've pretty much, I feel like we touched on almost everything. Anything else you think like people should know about securing their Bitcoin?
Just be very careful. Two things I would say: be very careful with your private keys.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's that's your generational wealth. Those words. So be very careful with them. Number one, make sure that they're legible, right? Because if something were to unexpectedly happen to you tomorrow or today, your family's going to have to figure out a way to get your Bitcoin, right? And so if you have chicken scratch and you're writing your 12 words down or 24 words down, even if you can recover it, that doesn't mean that your wife or your kids or whoever can do that. So make it legible. From there, put it onto steel. And from steel, you put it into an encrypted format. So that's what I would say is just consider the fact that life is very fragile. I made a video about this on the channel a couple weeks ago. I hit a deer and I was like,
Yeah, I saw that, man. I'm glad
yeah,
you're all
it's like,
right. Yeah.
I think life expectancy is a scam. Everybody thinks because the average life expectancy is 80 years that we still have 40 years left, right? Just because that's our life expectancy. But things happen in a flash, right? So that's the one thing as I would say is just like be prepared for anything to happen any day. Um, and the nice thing about the service and the solution that we have at Bitcoin Citadel is we have an inheritance plan built into it. But what I would say to people is make that your goal, whether that's with us or somebody else. Like get your inheritance stuff together. There's a whole slew of things that can go wrong with your estate, with probate, with this information becoming public if something were to happen to you. Whole nother rabbit hole there. But that's what we help people with. But the one thing I would say is like take half an hour. Take half an hour of your life, get a fresh sheet of paper here, write down if something were to unexpectedly happen to me tomorrow, this is who you should call. And that could be Ralph, that could be your best friend who's a Bitcoiner, that could be your friend from college that's a Bitcoiner, that could be Jor, that could be anybody, Bitcoin Citadel. But the key there is that underneath that, once you say reach out to this person or this is where the words are, whatever that is, make sure you put in bold, underline, italics. Under no circumstances will this person need to know these 12 words. They will be able to help you without knowing these 12 words. So that's just kind of a quick and dirty thing that people can do, like a short-term inheritance plan, essentially. If something were to happen to you tomorrow, your family's going to know who to contact or where to go. But be very specific in that message saying, don't share these 12 words with them. They do not need to know these. They'll be able to help you through this process without you sharing these words with them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. That's a pretty good. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good point. Wow. And I know we hitting the hour, but before I let you go, I usually have one last question for my guests. If you could go back in time and give yourself advice other than buying more Bitcoin, what else would you tell yourself?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I need about an hour for that. Um, I would say just don't take yourself too seriously.
Why is that?
Like nobody cares,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yep.
we spend so much time and energy of our lives worrying about what this person thinks or what this person thinks of my hair or my beard today or whatever that is. Nobody cares. Everybody's worried about themselves, right? And so if you kind of get to the point of not caring what people think, I think that that's an unlock in life. If I cared about what my friends and family thought about me, I wouldn't be in Bitcoin. I wouldn't be living where I am today. I wouldn't have a YouTube channel. So it's a whole nother level. I think once you can get to the point of, there's a book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving F. I don't want to swear on your channel because I don't know what your viewers are like, but I actually never read the book, but I do think it's just going by that principle in life will really change the way you think about things because we're moving into a much different world now, both economically and the corporate structure is going to look much different. So you have to be prepared to stick your neck out a little bit. I think that Bitcoiners have the biggest balls out there because you have people yelling at you, saying you're an idiot, saying that you're wrong every day. And I think 99% of your life as a Bitcoiner, you're going to be called an idiot. But there's that 1% where it's running up and everybody's texting you and people are like, oh man, I guess I should have listened to Jor, or I guess I should have listened to Ralph a little bit more. But if you want to be like everybody else and worry about what other people think of you, if you want to, take your own path and make your own tracks, then you kind of have to tune that out. So that's what I would say is just don't take yourself too seriously. Nobody really cares. Focus on what you're best at. Do what you love. And the only thing more scarce than Bitcoin is your time. So just
Yeah.
enjoy it.
Nice, nice, nice. I like that actually. That's good advice, man. Yeah, appreciate that. I like to take everybody's advice at the end because it does resonate to me like in a way. So yeah, I appreciate that, man. Thank you for your time once again, man. Where can people find you, man? Other than we got Bitcoin Citadel, got Joe on YouTube. What else?
Yeah, bitcoincitadel.net.
Yeah.
I'll share my Nostr. Are you on Nostr?
I plan on being on Nostr. Yeah.
Nice.
The,
Good
the
answer.
the one thing about Nostr is that like because I feel like so I'm making contents on for people to trying to get into Bitcoin, and I feel like when if I transition or when I transition to Nostr, it's gonna be a bunch of Bitcoiners. So what I'm gonna be saying is like they already know all this. Like these are
Yeah,
I feel like what is it?
you don't talk about Bitcoin on Nostr. It's a
Yeah.
bunch of Bitcoiners,
Yeah.
but you just talk about the things that you enjoy, right? And
Yes.
you're going to
Exactly.
find people, you're going to connect with people on there, and they're the
Exactly.
best kind of people on Nostr.
Yeah. Yeah.
So don't
Exactly. So yeah.
just like as much as I learned a lot from Gary Vee. I don't like what he did with Ethereum and all his NFTs and stuff like that.
Yep.
But like the best advice I got from him was like your audience is different on every platform, right? So on Twitter,
Right.
you might be talking about Bitcoin. On YouTube, you might be talking about Bitcoin. But on
Yep.
Nostr, you're just being Ralph and you're meeting other people who are
Yep.
Bitcoiners and have that in common with you.
Yep.
And then you can, ease some of your show in there. You can talk about your show. You can promote it that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's different kind of mentality when you're posting on Nostr versus something like YouTube or Twitter based on where you are
Right.
right now.
Oh yeah, yeah. So yeah, I'm definitely planning on getting on Nostr because I've heard a few big channels getting canceled as well. So I'm like, you know what, man, I don't want to be, if I get canceled, hey, at least I have Nostr where it's kind of, it's your own stuff. Nobody's got control over your content. So I am planning on doing that. Yeah. But yeah, the only reason why is because my target audience wasn't
Yeah.
there. So I'm planning, I'm going after those nurses that are working 12 hours 5 times a week that have
Yeah.
no idea. They have no idea what Bitcoin is. They have no idea what money is. So I guess that's why I'm not on there yet. So I'll
Yeah,
get
no,
there.
that's fair. And I
Yeah.
think the one thing that I would say that is like people see Nostr as like this censorship resistant platform that people can use.
Hmm.
But like the real unlock there, man, is like you can make a post on Nostr.
Hmm.
And if people like it, instead of just giving you like an artificial thumbs up or a heart or whatever it is, they can send
Yeah.
you sats,
Right.
right?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
that's the thing with YouTube is like you need 500 watch hour or 500 subscribers, X amount of watch hours
Yep.
before they'll even give you a penny for your time.
Yeah.
Whereas Nostr, like that, you can make one post on there, and if people like it and get value from it, they can send you Sats over Lightning instantly without
Yep.
credit cards, without ID, without anything like that. So
Yeah.
that's the real power of Nostr. Is just it's like a social media platform powered by Bitcoin. Like it's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I definitely am looking forward to that, to be honest. Yeah.
Well,
But
let me know when
man,
you're on there. I'll give you I'll repost you and give you a little boost to get going on there.
oh yeah, will do for sure. Yeah, I'll probably if I post it, it's probably gonna be more about well, what Americans call football. I mean soccer. It's football. So that's
Nice,
probably what I'm more passionate about, to be honest. So
nice. Well, there's
yeah,
probably a
man.
ton of people on there who are into that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh
And they're all
yeah.
Bitcoiners.
Yeah. I know that's amazing, man. That's amazing, man. Thanks again for your time, man. I
Yeah, no
appreciate
worries.
it.
Thanks again
Y-
for having me on here. I love what you're
Well,
doing. I think we need more people like you in the world. And I just
thank
wanted
you.
to say thanks for putting in the time and energy. I know it's tough getting started. It's
Yep.
tough not getting a paycheck from anybody or getting any sort of instant recognition for what you're doing. So I just want to say I appreciate you
Oh,
and
yeah. Thank you,
keep
man.
going,
Thank you. Thank
because
you.
we got a whole world to build here. So you're going to be one of the pillars of it. So I appreciate you, buddy.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. And honestly, man, I could do this. I could do this for free, to be honest, because I feel like the message is more important
Yep.
than the paycheck, really. Because there are so many people that need this, but they don't know it yet. And I'm like, I just want to spread the word, man. Because I'm I'm tired of seeing people suffer. It's just
I know.
it hurts, man. It hurts. But
I know.
I appreciate the message, man. I appreciate that, and you too, man. Keep going, man. I love what you're doing, man. Keep it up, man. You've kind of motivated me. I'm like, man, I want to start a live stream, but I don't think I got it in me to do it every day like you are.
Well, I didn't either. I'll tell you that for sure. When I
Yeah,
started, it was just like, it was a shoot and aim kind of thing. You just start and then you learn. You look like a dummy for a while, but then it turns into something. So
yeah, yeah.
you should
I
do it.
love it. Yeah, I love it, man. I'm a man. Yo, you have a good one, my guy.
Okay. Thanks, Ralph.